G'day, it's your boy Josh Wulf, hosting today. We're doing some coding on Zeebe and Commando Cloud. So I'm going to be working on the Commando Cloud starter, which is it's kind of an interactive demo for an introduction, getting started kind of guide for Commando Cloud that runs on what I call the GitHub VM. So GitHub have like this massive backplane of virtual machines that they make available for people to use through GitHub Actions. So I've written a Zeebe client that runs inside GitHub Actions, and I'm using it to power like an interactive demo. You know, you can walk through and it tells you, you know, do this, but instead of you having to do it, it just actually runs it for you. And then, you know, you can go and write the code to do it yourself, but, you know, this will accelerate you through. I had one guy run through this first part here. It took him 14 minutes to do the whole thing. Tell you what, probably wouldn't even be able to get you know, your development environment configured to write a Zeebe application in 14 minutes. A speed run you could, but not from zero to hero. So what I'm creating here is the zero to hero experience within minutes, and then you know you can like mess around for hours trying to get like things to compile and stuff later once you see how awesome it is. That's basically the idea. Okay. So let's just jump into this. I'm going to change this here. It's like a tour of test drive Commando Cloud. Test drive Commando Cloud in 30 minutes using this repo. $30 using only a fork of this repo. Ta-da! There we go. Save that. Good. Now I've got a bunch of Visual Studio Code windows all over the places. Let's move them across to this monitor. Ta-da! And then we'll put the others down. I can see my connected. I can watch my connection speed. Okay, here we go. Review. So this is part one. So I got the part one, the basic demo running. Now I'm working on a more advanced demo, which is like an e-commerce order fulfillment process. This is pretty kick-ass. Wow. Yeah, so I got the database, this thing writing a stock inventory into a database in a GitHub repo using GettoDB. Let me pull that up for you. You can check it out. GettoHubDB. World's least web scale JSON DB. Got a cool picture. I dig it. Okay. So yeah, it writes records into the database. So let me show you that running. I'm using Actions Panel, which is a GitHub app. I'm gonna write a GitHub app, I think. Anyway, let's restock the demo e-commerce store. Actually, I may need to refresh this page. Let's go into the actions view of the repository. Get triggered with GitHub. Okay, here we go. Go away. Drop database. Cool. Restock the demo e-commerce store. It's interesting. I haven't seen this before. Is that new? Okay. And then if I have a look at my actions view of the repository, you'll see actions getting triggered, and then a bunch of them will just like exit because they're like, nah, not my trigger. See, this one's starting to run restock shop. So if we go in here, go into restock shop, you can see it's executing this demo workflow. If I go to command to operate, come on, grab my command to operate window. It's a little tricky to grab because there are so many browser tabs there. Let's add it to this browser. Add to this browser. Where'd it go? Oh, my machine is freaking out. There we go. Running instances. Let's have a look. Refresh. Error 13, internal unexpected error occurred during the request processing. It's probably something wrong with my model. Let's have a look. Incidents. Nope. Okay. Today's the 19th. It's this one here. It's running. Okay, so let's see, it's running a multi-instance here. It's interesting. It doesn't have timestamps. Can I show timestamps? Show timestamps. Turn off the timestamps. What? Didn't even do anything. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it errored out after like 1 minute. It errored out after like not even a minute, like about 15 seconds it took to blow up. Okay, interesting. I'll debug that in a second. Let's just see if this is running multiple instances. So that restock the shop, it takes an array of products and then it runs like a create stock record for each one. Let's have a look in here. Actions. Okay, restock item failed. Let's have a look what's happening here. State stock level failed. Okay. Oh. Okay, something is not right with the code by the look of things. And I'd say that the problem lies in the GitHub DB. Look. GitHub DB. Okay, so this is in parameters. Parameter like sanitization. Okay, upsert requires GitHub token. Yeah. Okay. Maybe in here I didn't pass GitHub token in. Fact. Get input GitHub token. Can I write a test for that? Not really, because this core doesn't get mocked. And I'm not about to mock it. Let's run the linting to make sure that it doesn't fail when it gets up there, because it's going to run all the linting and everything in a GitHub action on check-in. And it often fails because it's super strict. Super strict. Like to the extent where if you have a function that returns an object, and then you have to have a function return signature. So you got to say it returns an object, and let's say you type the object, and one of the keys in the object could be an array of any. And it will say you have to make this an asynchronous function, because any means it could be a promise, which means that somewhere else in your code you may not await it, so you have to make it asynchronous to force awaiting. Wow. Okay, add GitHub token to parameters. And push. Needs to do a pull and a push because it'll... If I push without building locally, it builds it in the cloud and then does a commit. Okay, but we're not at the source of why this update restock shop errors out. It's a request timeout. Let's have a look at the Zeebe action. What the hell is this? Oh, okay. Dude. Huh. That's one way to do it, but that's a little bit funky. It's an immediately executing function. I mean, dude, an easier way to do it is to actually provide a default. So I'm going to do it that way. Who was the maniac who wrote that code? Ah, no, that's right, because it might be an empty string. That's why I wrote that. I was worried it might be an empty string. That's 30 seconds, so it'll wait for up to 30 seconds by default. Made the request timeout parameter in the node client milliseconds, but it should really be seconds. Because when you're talking about waiting for a workflow to complete, you're not talking milliseconds, you're talking like seconds. But it seems to be, yep, it awaits it, passes that in. Why did it fail? Because the process itself did not fail. Again, let's run all these tests locally. This is an interesting one to get the Zeebe client to run on a in the cloud. It has to bundle it into a single file, and then you got to get the gRPC dependencies, you know, the binaries built for the right machine that it's running on. So I had to put a build task up in GitHub to make sure it's, you know, built for their machines rather than my Mac. And then the other thing I had to do was patch the pathing, because the protocol, copy the protocol file in and patch the pathing in the JavaScript code output. So you can see here, patching this index.js for relative path to Zeebe proto. In GitHub Actions, it's part of the build task. Now that I think about it, that request timeout, does that get used anywhere else? Whatever. Default request timeout 30 seconds. 30 seconds for create workflow instance, create WFI. That's how we say it. And then we'll say plus result with result. Shingo Nakamura, the dulcet tones of Japanese progressive house. Push that up. Okay, let's go back to the GitHubs. First of all, let's cancel this workflow instance. Now, it says there are 4 running instances. These are from yesterday, so we'll blow them away. Let's start with a clean slate. Take awesome Zeebe away for now. Go back to action. So the thing is that the Zeebe action will be rebuilding, but I don't think we rely on it. The GitHub DB action, we should just make sure that it built okay. So it has this green tick if it's built, a yellow circle if it's building, and then a red cross if it didn't build. Publish? No, not yet. Okay, actions panel. There we go. Restock the demo e-commerce store. Are you absolutely sure? Confirm. Okay. A bunch of actions getting triggered. Then one of the next things that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to, you can branch off from this demo and implement the demo yourself locally following instructions. Okay, here's how you implement, what we built. I guess I could shoot some short videos to show people how to build things in the modeler. That would be the easiest way to do that. Writing about doing stuff in the modeler. I mean, you can also have written instructions with pictures. Okay, blew up again. Error 13, internal error. Run one of the earlier demos that was working. Okay, so it started okay. Wow, okay, it's actually running fine. Okay, well, my hypothesis is that the request timeout is taking too long. So let's have a look at how that request is set up. Command to cloud, get started. Yep. Actually, I think, is it in verbose mode? No. I'll create a verbose mode for this. Zeebe action. So I'm going to create a verbose mode, and I think the other thing that I am going to do is I'm going to make request timeout seconds rather than milliseconds, because you don't need millisecond resolution. So to do that, this Docker file and Docker Compose here is not for running the action, it's for building the action. So it just builds it grabs like a Debian container. Then the Docker Compose runs rebuild inside the container. Took me a little while to figure out how to do that. Okay, let's have a look. So, I mean, the thing about this is this is YAML seconds. There we go. And then in here, like make it 30 seconds at least. And then what we do here is we just go request timeout times 1,000 to get it to the milliseconds that the node client uses. But I want to change the node client as well, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. There's no release plan for that node client, and releasing the node client is a little bit more heavyweight than releasing this. Okay, and we want to create a verbose mode as well, so they go into action.yaml, and then I create a new parameter called verbose. Required is false, and then the description. Set to true for verbose debugging information, and then I'm going to create another mode called quiet. And you can actually set both of them. And this really sets the log level. So set the log level of the Zeebe client and worker to none. Okay, so if I go into my main function, I'm going to need to grab to get the variables run, so Zeebe action. Okay, this uses a different okay, so I used a different way, and by the time I got to writing the GitHub DB, I'd written, this was the first action I wrote, and the GitHub DB one was the second one I wrote, and this one here I grab all of the parameters and then I pass them into this resolve required parameters function, which is pretty cool. What this thing does is it has a table here of like which ones are required for each operation. Then it scans through them. Check it out. Look at that code. Wow, incredible. Super dynamic. It uses that table, whatever the object is that you passed in, and some pretty hardcore typing to just like dynamically analyze the parameters and make sure that you got the right ones. It took me a while to write that. It was pretty fun. Zeebe action's a bit more ghetto than that. Now what I'm faced with is, because this was so lightweight and fast when I made it to stand it up, it's got like duplication, like concerns are spread into different places. Like inside each of these operations, each operation is responsible for demarshalling the its required parameters from the environment, which means there wasn't a lot of overlap in the beginning, but there's starting to be overlap now. So what I'll do is I'll start to deal with the overlap at the top, right? So I'll just go const verbose equals so core.getInput is this is a supplied library for GitHub Actions, and it gets the value of this from the environment. So GitHub will set the environment, and this library pulls it out, and it comes from this @actions core module. So if this is equal to true, and I'll make it case sensitive because I don't care. And then the other one was quiet, not console. Quiet equals core.getInput quiet. Same thing. Triple equals true. Triple equals true. Okay. Now, see, now I'm going to have to do, oh man. You know what? I think I can do this. So rename this symbol here to message name. Did that for object literal shorthand because the published message in the publish message payload, we know the name means the message name, but once I lift it out of this operation, so I'm just going to rip these things out and lift them to the top. So parameter demarshalling takes place here. I don't know if that's the correct term to use, demarshalling, but whatever. Okay, so here we're going to grab this one out of here. What that means is that if we're in verbose mode, I can just echo out all of the parameters in one place as an object, and it makes these operations a lot lighter as well. You know, we don't need this. Same thing here. You can see the duplication of code starting to creep in. BPM process ID we already pulled out, and same thing with that. Yeah, we don't want to have to maintain the same code in multiple places. Oh. Okay, request timeout I did not lift. Okay, so we're going to lift this out of here. Control X that sucker. Lift it up to here. Now I could lift this into its own function to crystallize the concern in one place. The only thing about it is that actually this has kind of got like a Go sort of signature, you know, error result, but reversed. But it's an object, so you could reverse them from get variables, which is where we try to JSON stringify or JSON parse the variable string to an object, and then we exit out of the entire action. Now if I put that into a function, it's not going to have the same effect. So I would need to then, you know, do the same thing, have an error result return. You know what, which I can do, so it's not that big a deal. Instead of returning core set failed, I would call core set. No, I would, yeah, okay, I would lift that out. See, I could do it like this. So I just go function, get environment. Let's call it that. It's funny because the linting rules blow up if there's no return signatures, but it doesn't tell me that in my IDE, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so if I now pull that out of there, put all of this into here. I'm going to relocate this concern back inside the main function here. This missing keys is it's not as sophisticated as Ghetto Hub DB. This one basically just checks if you've got client credentials in the environment. Did I get a GitHub token in here? Don't need it. Okay, so here we just return this object. At least this one doesn't insist on like alphabetical ordering of really? Okay. Let's go from top to bottom. Request timeout. Time to live. Relation key. Variables. Error. Message name. I mean, later I am going to have to actually verbose. Okay, because it's gonna want to return signature. So anyway, I'm starting the work to do like the variable, like required variables. Starting that now. So might be present, and if it is, it's a string. They're all strings actually. Oh no, request timeout's a number if it's present. Yeah, this is actually forcing me to deal with it because when I go to use these, I'm going to have to assert that they are present, which lets me know that actually, I haven't actually proven that they're present. Correlation key may or may not be present. If it is, it's a string. Variables is, if it is present, it's a JSON document. JSON doc. What's it not liking about this? No name. Oh, it's a config. Error if it's present, it's a boolean. No, definitely say it's present. Message name may or may not be there. It's a string. Quiet is a boolean. It's definitely going to be there. And verbose is also a boolean. It's always there. Okay. Config. What don't you like about that? Oh, okay. It's a JSON doc or an array of JSON docs. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Environment. So here I can do this. And then I'll get IntelliSense on this. I wish there's a shorthand to just like select all. That'd be good. Damn it. Actually, I don't need space. It's going to auto format. Time to live. Time to die. Okay. I think that was from Blade Runner. Time to Die, Rutger Hauer. Now, if there's an error in parsing the variables, ta-da, then later, I'm passing the operation name. So this one here will tell you, like, if it was a required one, it'll blow up. So what we would do is grab the operation here, and then later we'll extend this to pass the operation, and then it will check for required keys. Annoying. Oh god. Now I'm gonna have to start polluting my code with assertions. Which is gonna ruin my type safety later, because I'm gonna have all these type assertions in here that the thing was defined. It's gonna give me no safety. I mean, basically, it's now more accurately modeling the environment. Like, the user may not pass in a request timeout, in which case, hang on, if we go back up here, I think request timeout is definitely going to be present, because I supply a default if they don't supply one. They may not supply a BPMN process ID, which we need to operate. Operation we know is going to be there because it will throw if it wasn't present. Rename this one to worker handler file and lift it. So rip it out of here. Drop it into here. Make sure that we return it from here. Add it to here. May or may not be present. It's a string. Then we'll have to do like a validated config. It may or may not be present. No, we've got to demarshal it. Destructure it off this here. The problem now is that I'm going to have to write to get really model the type safety of this. I'm going to need to write specialized validated configuration interfaces for each of the operations, which I don't have a problem with, right? Because basically I need a declaration of that somewhere. But the problem is that at runtime to actually validate it, I need a materialization of that. So with GitHub DB, I mean, I got IntelliSense in here with this. Like, this took something to get this to work. But here's the materialization here, but that doesn't flow through. Like, that still may or may not be there, but I do know that at runtime they are there because it throws if they're not. So my assertions then are, you know, they work. Should I just copy the ghetto? I mean, I could copy the GitHub code that I wrote, or the other way I could do it is I could take a look at this library, which I've never used but know about, called IOTS, which is Runtime Type System for IO Decoding. The idea. Runtime representation. It's a codec. Can decode them, can encode them. Custom type guard. Either FPTS. Codec representing a string. The advantage of using IOTS to define the runtime type is that we can validate the type at runtime, and we can also extract the corresponding static type so we don't have to define it twice. TypeScript infers the type automatically based on a schema. Mutually recursive types. Okay, am I going to use this? It's extra work to put it in, but then it's going to save that problem where I push something, run something, it doesn't work, then I'm like, what went wrong? Go back, oh, I forgot this. Which is not a big deal now, but basically that whole loop relies on me catching it, and then if like lots of other people are using it, that's a problem. Okay, so let's have a look. It's a codec, it's a runtime representation of the static type A. I'd create the classes for the different operations. Put the required parameters into here, and optional parameters. Can you have optional parameters? What the hell? Let's just try it. Hey, the Zeebe action. Ta-da! Static type A. So what's O? Okay. Encode outputs. Decode inputs. Instructor. Okay, so I would create this type thing. I would create some static classes which are the static types, which represent. Is there an example? Example, but it's a string. Takes as its input. Oh, this is hardcore functional programming, man. It's on the outer edge of my functional programming capabilities. Which is good, because that's where I like to be. Let's have a look at what other people have written about IOTS tutorial. Otto, my man. Okay, interface. REST API returns an array of products. So this is about the boundaries of the system. So, you know, REST API is a boundary of a system, and then another boundary of the system is getting configuration from the environment. It's basically the same thing. The transport is the only difference. Decode. Throws. Okay, so yeah, okay, I keep my get environment, and then I just pass it into, in the beginning of the operation, I'll pass it into the, yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Let's try this out. Decode. Okay, so what do I call these? I'll call them operations. But they're not the operation implementations, they're the operation validations. Operation config validation. Okay, so export const. It's alongside. Move this over. Operation validations. Okay, the operations are I guess we'll just call them with capitals like this. So publish message equals t.interface. Okay, and then I just what does it need? So it needs a message name. T dot string. Variables. T dot object. This cannot be optional. Okay, in that case we'll make it required. Yeah, because if they don't provide anything, we automatically initialize it as that. Now, in the README, did I... I need a table in here. Publish a message. Correlation key. May or may not be present. May or may not be present. Oh well, so let's just do correlation key. I wonder if you can do like this. T dot, it's either a string or undefined? Yes. What? What? Type number is not assignable to type mixed. What? What's this type string C? What's that? Okay. Let's have a look. Is it an optional typing? Okay, so they must have something to say about optional types in here. Required and optional props. Using an intersection. So you got to declare one as a T type, and then one as a T partial. Okay, so this is going to be publish message required, and it's going to be a T type. Okay, so take this out. I'm not going to export this. And then we'll go const publish message optional. equals t dot partial, and then we put this in here. Okay. Export const intersection AB. So then I go like this: export const publish message t dot intersection of publish message required and optional. Ta-da! Done. There you go. Killer. Okay, so that's the published message. Actually, time to live. I think that should be a T number. Doesn't it like about that? Comma. If I go back to my implementation and take a look at the published message, yes, time to live. That's funny. Time to live is may or may not exist according to that. Oh, it's definitely going to be there. And it's definitely a number. Good. Okay, let's do the next operation. Operations, create workflow instance. Const create workflow instance required. So this one required as a type. Okay, so BPMN process ID, which is of a type string. What else do you need on a create workflow instance? Variables. Create workflow instance. Here we go. Variables. Object. We don't worry about the client config because client config is actually false, not required. Are there any operations that do not require start workers, deploy worker? No, that should be required. Client config should be required. Required true. Yeah, should exit real early if it doesn't have that. Okay, so needs a BPMN process ID and variables. That's it. So we don't even need that. We don't need to do the optional pattern on here. So what's that? Export? No, only remove declaration. Okay, so create airflow with result. And then we make request timeout required, and it's a T number. deploy workflow. What does the error message look like? Yuck. Okay. Thinking ahead to where it's going to be intersection types. What about discriminated unions? One or the other. Partial, custom types, generics. That's cool. Back to the top. Cursive, branded, exact, mixing, generics. What about? So IOTS discriminated union. Discriminated union. Tagged unions. Oh, there you go. Don't know what that is, but you can do that. Okay. Okay, so, okay. BPMN file name. Rename this symbol to BPMN file name. BPMN file name. I scoped the names inside the operations, so BPMN directory. Rip them out of here. Lift them into the getEnd function. Pass them back out. Doesn't it like about that? Oh yeah, you can't return that because it's not part of the signature. File name. I am having to define this twice, but it should get some. I'm defining the entire possibility here, and then I should get specialized config objects out of these validators. Okay, so if it's a workflow file, then it needs to have a BPMN file name in it, which is of type string. And then export const deploy workflow directory equals t-type. And this thing has a BPMN directory, which is of type string. Worry about the spaces, it'll fix it. So what I actually export is a deploy workflow equals const. Can I do this? No. Can't do that. Interface type the union. T.union. Union. Wow. T union bar or T undefined. Okay, so mutually recursive types. Nope. Union A or B. Okay. So it's either a workflow file or a workflow directory. OMG! All dynamic programming languages are forced to re-implement their type system at runtime. There's actually no way around this because even in a statically this is statically typed. In a statically typed system at the boundaries, you have to validate the inputs to make sure that your typing system is accurate. Okay. Let's deploy workflow. Is there anything I haven't captured in here? These ones I don't need to worry about because they get handled by the missing parameters thing. Worker handler file. Worker lifetime minutes. Yeah. Lift that back out. Rename this symbol first. It's worker lifetime. Worker lifetime. Pull it out of here. How did I get onto this? I detected some error that I'd made. It was request timeout or something. Anyway, I got to get this thing out of the ghetto coding that started it and put it into something. Should be a number now. Is there a default? Yeah, 10 minutes. Okay. So we know it's going to be present. Okay. Operations. So we did create workflow instance with a result. Deploy workflow. Start workers now. So export start const start workers. T.type. Start the workers, all you need is the worker file. That's not even in there. Yeah, there it is. Worker handler file. It's a t.string. And then we need the worker lifetimes. Called worker lifetime. It's how long the workers run for. T.number. Number. Okay, good. Now. I now have the ability to get a validated configuration out of here. Right? So I demarshal it here. So instead, I can say this config and I should change error to variable parsing error. I rename the symbol here. Like that. Does it change it down here? I doubt it. Oh man. Let's just use a string grep. Variable parsing error. That. Which means I can now just do that. Like that. And here we just say config.variable parsing error. Now the thing is that, okay, in here, I now say const opconfig equals, and this is a published message, so how do I validate the configuration? Runtime type checking, let's have a look. And when you want to use it, you just say decode. I'm gonna have to write tests for this, man. Okay. What doesn't it like about that? Cannot find the name published message. Import. So in here, theoretically, I can now do this. Opconfig. Nope, I need to get the value out. Value. May not be there. Either. What does this do? Okay. Row reporter. Well, let's have a look at how they reckon you should use it in the README on here. Codec, yep. Here we go. So, oh man. Oh my god. Okay, I've got to go full functional now. That's cool. Let's do it. Dude. Pipe and fold. It's like a promise. A then and a catch. So the on failure the failure handler and the success handler. Yeah, okay, so I just write like this. Okay, so in main, I'll put the failure handler here. Get rid of that. Look, Ma, I'm a functional programmer. Okay, so on left here, string, it returns a string. How do they use it in here? Decode, fold on left, on right. Just returns that. pipe. Okay, so fold. Okay, so fold is like a fork and join. So pipe just takes the output of that, applies it to that, and then fold will join the outputs. Okay. So I can do the same kind of thing like a error result. Okay, so in that case I have to make my error handling in this whole thing functional. So what it's going to look like then is something like this. I'm going to go top to bottom. BPMN you go across left to right, but I'm going top to bottom for now. So it's going to look like this. It's going to go operational decode, operation config decode, and big in this thing. So we're going to do an operation config decode. Now from here, see it wants to go left to right. Let's go left to right then, whatever. Oh yeah, I can handle this. This is the left, which is the error handler. This is the right, which is the value. So we'll call this a valid config. It's going to take this path if there's an error. Then we're going to do the operation. And then what I'm going to do here is if there's an error in the operation, we'll go down this path. This is the success of the operation. Let's make it a little smaller. Right? And then we're going to fold it here at this point. So I need two folding operations. That. Done. Is there a way I can say join? Parallel gateway, exclusive, parallel. Actually, no, it's exclusive. It's only going to be one of them. It's going to come in here. And then I actually need to call set failed or set so put this here. This is how my error handling for the whole thing is going to work. This is where set failed happens. So I only need to set failed once, but there are multiple reasons why it could be failed, but we'll pass that through. Here we report success. And then the way we branch here is this should return an object. Either of these errors should return an object, and we use a discriminated union on an isError property, which will be of two types. It's a discriminated union between a union. Discriminated union? Have I got that right? Do I even know what I'm talking about? Let's have a look. What is a discriminated union? Discriminated union. Disjoint union theory. Yeah, it's disjoint union, so there's no overlap. Let's have a look at tagged union. Variant disjoint union. Yeah, a value that could take on several different but fixed values. Only one of the types can be in use at one time. A tag field explicitly indicates which one's used. So yeah. So it's a tagged union or a discriminated union or a disjoint union. And it's is error true and is error false. That's the tagged union that we use to discriminate. I did get it right. This is functionally the operational flow of this program. And the operation takes place in here, and then it can either take one of two branches. So I moved my operations out of the main file into individual operation files. This is a pretty significant refactor of this thing. It's cool. It's all good, man. Let's roll with it. So first thing is publish message, right? Give them functional interfaces. Okay, so just grab this whole thing out of here. Export a function from here. It's going to have a functional interface. Publish message, which takes a config, which is of type publish message. I don't know what the type is yet. We'll deal with that in a second. So I've got to get core into here. No, I don't. No, no. I'll push these into the results array, and then that will take place here. So that goes to one place rather than being spread throughout the code. Because basically all these operations either report an error or a success. And then we just need a reporter that does that. Crystallize the concerns. No case statement here because we know where we're at. This we need to decode before we get in here. Zeebe client we do need. I think this will take Zeebe client out of the main, which is good because this is a side effect. So main will be concerned only with the functional flow of the program. And then these are the side affecting pieces here. It comes off the config. Correlation key. I'm just going to do this one and then figure out how to get the data to flow through it, and also how to get the typing on that input. Variables, yeah, and time to live is config.timetolive. That. Yeah, okay, so here's where we're going to try this operation. I guess we could make it a promise. That's an easy way. And then instead of that, we would do... So we'll do this like that, and then change these two to result.push. Now in the case where we catch the error, then what? Make this a promise? A promise is a functional interface that has a left and a right. So here I would return a new promise, and it has a left and right that comes into it. So resolve and reject. no longer need to break. Close that just here. Make this asynchronous itself so that I can use a wait within it. Okay, so await that, and then we resolve it with the operation resolve for the reporter. Resolve, result. No. So error, false. That's my discriminated union, and then result. Now, if we catch something, we're going to resolve it with error true. The result will be null. No, error message. Just message, I'll say. E to string. No, e dot message. There we go. Get rid of that. Not resolve, but rather reject. So that's the shape of all my operations now. They return a promise that has like a resolve and a reject. That's it. Okay, good. Let's pick that up. So now I've got to figure out how to get the config in here. Okay, so let's go back to this folding thing. IOTS runtime types. So the on left failure handler needs to take us down this branch here. So in main, and this should return an object, right, which says error true, error true, and this thing here is message is how we define that. And then so we'll define a type, which is and I have to export it from here. Export type. Call it operation success equals error is false, and then result is an array of strings. Export another type, which is operation failure. Probably don't need to actually export these because I'm going to do a union type on them. Now if the error is true, then it has a message, which also let's make an array of strings, right? Yeah. And then this is the type that we actually need to export, which is operation outcome. Operation outcome, which is either an operation success, operation failure, or operation success. Ta-da! What is this? Oh yeah, okay. It should be operation name, really. Okay, so get variables, get the environment. This thing here should return an operation error. Wah, wah, wah. Operation failure. And errors. So I'm going to JSON stringify the errors. like that. And then we'll put, in here we'll say missing configuration keys. So here we say missing required configuration keys. Missing required configuration keys for operation. Ta-da! Love it. See, I can now test. I'll fold the output. So what this will look like is we'll go into this thing here, we'll fold two things. So we'll have an on left and the on right will pass in an operation. Okay, and then we'll put a, I have to figure that catch then. Might need to use a different interface like a either. I think I'll do a switch on the operation. Made this a discriminated union so that a case statement can reason about the exhaustiveness of my case statement. And what I'll do is I'll pass this in as a parameter. Might be too generic, dynamic. Maybe. Let's see. So that's my on left. Let's have a look at the on right. Okay, let's build the switch statement and then just test it and see what happens. Dude, this is a massive refactor. Let's take this down to its minimum. Put these into an indexed array actually. Okay. Can I import this? Oh. Like that? No return type. Something like this. Value. So here we'll go codec. when amateurs do functional programming. Side effects in the main file. Okay. So my idea here is that, and this might be too dynamic, I put the codec in there, and then I have a single functional fold over the codec and the operation, right? See, here I would go, now this is where you get this here. I'm just going to do it for one to see what happens. I import it. Now can I import it? Yeah. Already declared. Right, okay, so now it was misnamed. This here is actually the operation name. Okay. Uncomment that. And then here I do this. Because then what I do at the end of this exhaustiveness checking, it might be undefined. We'll bail at this point if that doesn't work. Because then what we would do is we would do codec, pass in the config, unreachable code detected. Why is that unreachable code? Let's try it here. Oh, down a rabbit hole, man. That's right. It needs to be decode. Okay, so decode that. Okay, so we need to import pipe and fold. It might be too dynamic. Not a problem. I'll just do this actually in here in each one. That's fine. Yeah. Actually, yeah, we'll do it like this. Get rid of that. I don't know why that's unreachable code there, but because that's in the switch statement, that's why. Okay, so now we need to pipe it, and then we need to fold it. Now, if it actually worked, that's the on left. Now the on right makes a string. Have a look how this one works. Result.value. This is not a functional approach. This is like a imperative control flow. Doesn't throw any validation errors itself. It returns a validation A type, which in turn is in either errors or A. Wah. Guides maybe. Index. Nope. Docs. Let's go to the main page. Either. Docs. Has high kind of types. Oh, awesome. Modules. Either type. Either. Passes the value into the right. Okay, so okay, it was a string because it was a string that went in. So publish message. So we should return an either. What doesn't it like about that? Old. Okay, so either errors, any. Well, these have to return the same thing. Don't use a promise. We're waiting, so it doesn't need to be. So I'll return an operation outcome. Return. Operation outcome. Okay, it does need to be async in that case. Returns a promise of an operation outcome. Ooh. Okay, make it async all the way down then. So, and then I just declare this as async and it will automatically make it into a promise for me. I don't need to do promise resolve. Okay, this. Yeah, okay, so then you got to declare this as a promise as an operation outcome. And it's awaited at the end. Looking good. If I pipe that into there, what does this return? Promise of an operation outcome. Boom. Let's just test the return type on this. Yep, it's a promise of an operation outcome. Love it. So now all I need to do is await the outcome. at the end of the statement, and then I can implement my final error handling. So it can fail in a couple of different places, and I don't care where, but I just have one behavior, which is either exit with success, printing out the results, or exit with a failure, printing out the error messages, wherever they come from. Love it. Okay, so that's it. So here I just pipe my config into here. No, this one is create workflow. Okay, create workflow instance. Decode. Config. Fold on left. Or I need to now shift my operation out there. Now the only thing that's missing is how do I type the value of the input? To get the value. Okay, well anyway, create workflow instance. So operations, create workflow instance. I'll call it create WFI. Let's crib some stuff from here. Including this thing here. Oh, okay, I need to set the outputs as well. Okay, so my operation outcome actually needs to have two things on a success. It needs to have result and outputs. Called output? Output, yeah. Which is a single string. Which now makes this fail because this needs an output. So output. Beautiful. Okay. So here, error is false. Result, res, result is res and output is res. Ta-da! Beautiful. Rid of that, and then we'll catch here and return. Save. Good. What doesn't it like about this? Result needs to be that. And then the message is e.message. Done. This is the config. I mean, it would be very handy to have the typing in here. Main. Fold on left and then create message. Create workflow instance. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's switch to some different music. What's this about? What I really like is Gregory Essayan. Go search for him. Gregory Essayan. 70 subscribers? Oh. Criminally underrated, man. Criminally underrated. Res equals pipe. This one is create workflow instance with result. Fold it on this on error handler, which is on left, and then create workflow instance with result. So let's go here. Create workflow instance. Result. .ts. Grab the stuff from here. Paste that in there. With a result. Back to main and steal the code from here. And then I can probably grab this. Which means that I need to wrap this with a try here. Okay, so this change the name of this to result. Make sure we put the result in there. Good. I'll try the typing in a second. What doesn't it like? How do I get the type in here? Let's have a look. Doesn't have a return signature on there. Okay, how do I get the static type? Let's have a look if I can get it from here. This. It returns a type. The concrete type here. How do I get that type in there? X automatically either dot map. Type of. So if I go to here, like that, and then I just need to import T. Good. It's got the types. They're flying in. I think I can assert that that exists there. No. Yeah, I can assert that it exists, but not that it's undefined. Guess I could do this. Like this. Yeah.
Okay.
Message payload dot correlation key equals config dot correlation key. And then take this out of here. Nope. Time to live is number or undefined, so if I go back to here, time to live should be set to 0 if it doesn't exist, right? Time to live, yep. And then so I should define it in here as, yep, it's hard in there. Operation config validation. Yeah, okay. I'm going to make that required because we know that we supply it if the user doesn't supply it. Okay, so if I go back here, it's still what's wrong here. Correlation key is missing, but it's required. Really? Oh, we need to add a message ID. But correlation key is required. This isn't the Zeebe node client. Really? That's required? Doesn't seem right. Where's the protocol file? Bin? Nope. Dist? Proto. Publish message request. Interesting. It doesn't have things on here as required or not. Okay. This thing reckons the correlation key is required. How was I doing this published before? Correlation key equals, could be just nothing. Oh, okay, could do this. I think. Maybe. Don't know if that's going to affect the actual performance. What if I make it undefined? Oh, it has to be something. That is the weirdest thing, man. I'm going to do this. That's weird. Unknown is string. Surprised that it requires it. Anyway. Okay, so that's how you get the typing in here. So if I go to my create workflow instance here, import T. Okay. Okay, runtime checking and design time IntelliSense. Good. Okay. That? Yeah. Okay, good. Rather than a case statement here, because it's a single thing, I could put these into an array or a keyed object and then just like execute whatever is the key. I'm not going to do that right now though. Okay, so we're going to pipe and it's a deploy workflow, decode the config. Fold on left, and now we need to write a deploy workflow operation. Let's scrub this code as we go. Deploy workflow. See, this is the kind of checking that I want to get rid of. Don't need that check anymore. here. Dump this code in here. Rip off this code here. Type deploy workflow. Catch the error here. Now, read so read this last part of this block because it's pretty much the same thing. Cool. So here we're going to say, let's put these in line actually. Yep, that one. And this thing here goes into here. Yep, get rid of that. Okay, so config.bpmn file name. Not so good. Could be one or the other. Oh. Either got to run type guard. Go as any. I'm just going to do as any then, I guess. Reason being that I haven't got reified types in here. Losing my type safety in here. Maybe I could say as any. Can I do as any? Yuck. Kind of disgusting to do that, but whatever. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Okay, and here it's deploy workflow. Can't see it for some reason. Let's have a look. Export. That's why. Why can't it see that? Export async. Yeah. Promise of an operation outcome. It's this let that I don't like. I got one more to implement, but I am going to change this shape of this now. So I'm going to do const operation execution, and it's an object whose key is operation name, and whose value is this. Operation outcome. That and then let's do this. Comma. This. Comma. I don't know that I can get exhaustiveness with this. Let's see. I'll take this out and then hit save. Didn't like that. What didn't I like about it? The first place would like it. Right. So I trashed one of those. Start workers. Do that. Okay, do I have start workers still? No, I need to keep start workers. That. Like about that. That. Oh, it eagerly executes. So yeah, I got to do this so that they don't execute. Otherwise, all the operations would run all at once. That. There we go. And then all I need to do is const outcome equals await operation execution operation name not callable because it's index execute. Ta-da! And then this will be an operation outcome. Yes. Okay. So all I need to do after that is I say if outcome dot error return core set failed like this, and then oh okay, no, that's a specific Yeah, okay. So that's another error condition. Set failed. Outcome.message. Ta-da! Type guards for the win. So good. What doesn't it like about that? Error messages of type that. Okay. So, in that case, we need to do I guess we'll do this. Outcome.message. No. I know this linter hates this. For message in outcome.message. Core.info message. It failed. Like that. Basically here there's no executor for the operation they've requested. That's when we bail with this condition here. Save that. And then the only next thing is if there's an outcome error. If there isn't, then we can do this. Or const result in outcome result. Core.info result. And then core set output. Pretty handy how that type guard, because it has a return in there, the compiler knows that we definitely have a result here. No, this is just once. This is a much better control flow, actually. I like it. Outcome. Output. This is called result. There we go. This thing start workers? Yes! Good, it does reason about the completeness. Nice. Oh. No more Zeebe node. No more reading file system. No more resolving paths. This is just concerned with the high level. What this file now does is it just does this. It's this machine. Okay, let's implement start workers and then call it a day. We'll go to the gym in like 30 minutes. For what? No, for live. Okay. We'll go to the gym in like 30 minutes. Yesterday. Why? Okay, create workers. Okay, my type system says that this will work. However, I need to write some tests. steal this code from here. Have that part there. Don't need that anymore. Grab this stuff from up here. And what's that? That was interesting. What was that? Okay, so move this workers file into here. Bootstrap the workers. Leave that back up here. I don't know what effect that will have on the pathing. I don't want to mess with it right now. Get rid of that. Why no Zeebe client in there? What doesn't it like about that? Message has to be a string. Okay. Okay, so this should be config.workerhandler file. This one here is config. I'm not sure if this is right. Okay, let result messages, outcome, I don't know, result. Push. And we'll say messages. Config. Make this easier by putting this at the top. Good. That. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so messages, and then we should try this and then catch it, right? Because that code could throw. And then in here, if it does throw, we're going to return the it's an error. Message. Messages and e.message. A way for them to return a result. That'd be interesting. If I declare it here, that this is reported results. So I shouldn't rename that info actually. Yeah, that's much better actually. So an outcome, operation outcome defined down here. Lift these to the top. The types are at. Rename this symbol to info. Save all the affected files. Check my workers info. So change this one here to output then. Good. And I want to JSON stringify this. Info, what are we stringifying? Messages, I guess. This means that they don't get any. Might actually have to import core in here and do it directly because they won't get any output until it actually runs, which doesn't work. So create workers. Hey, did you find out why the thing is not working, Pralat? Why the gym's closed? Okay, we don't need this one. There's a missing Zeebe client here, dude. Oh no, because that actually gets run. Right. Okay, I don't know whether the worker code will be able to access that. It is open. Okay. You want to go at 6? Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is an interesting one because we're actually evaling this code and then it's accessing the outer scope. Here. How does that get set? Set up environment. Okay, we push it into the environment. Okay, so that works. Okay, well, it's good. I'm going to have to write some tests. So anyway, here we need to do core info. Messages is never. Test if it exists, then we read it. This could fail here. Okay, we'll get caught by this outer catch. So in that case, we probably don't need to catch that because that'll get caught by the outer catch. We just JSON stringify the output if they are able to create it. Okay. And then the only thing left to do is define start in here. Start workers. It's a function that when executed pipes start workers dot decode the configuration that we got from the wherever the environment, and then folds it into on left our error handler, and I should rename this file to start workers. Start workers. Back here, start workers. Done. Now I don't need to manually code that, I can get it from here. Object.keys from the operation execution and join them with a comma. There we go. Operation outcome. I have strings. Info. Okay, let's run the linter. It'll also run any tests that I have. I do have some tests. Well, first thing we want to see is if it just compiles. Like, are there some errors I didn't see? Nope. No errors. I mean, it's a great thing about TypeScript. You can do that level of refactoring and just have it transpile straight up. Okay, here we go. This is this real super intense linter. Oh, you can't use any. I'm gonna have to write the type guard. Oh man. I get them out of here? I'm gonna do this. Make a type alias. Add to the import. Deploy directory equals. Don't know if this is the most efficient way to do this, but this is one way I know to do it. Import. Okay. This is annoying. Be easier to tag them with a property so I can get that type guard discriminated union, like a false is deploy file. That would be much easier. I don't know how to do it with a validator, so just do this. Okay, so config, and it takes one of these configs, and what it returns is an assertion that config is deploy file, right? Expected any on line 33, so it's here. Maybe you need to do as unknown as any. That might deal with it. Like that. And I should be able to take off the as any in here. Ta-da! Yep. Now, does it work on, does it reason across the discriminated union? Yes, it does. And this compiler is just getting smarter and smarter. Output is never reassigned. Right. $29. Expected any on 29 here. Rid of all the side effect stuff. Import. Okay, run that. Didn't need that. Linting. So it transpiles, it's the linting that was the issue. But the linting is good because the linting going to say unused variables. Find unexpected any on line 16. Oh, dude, how are you supposed to write a type guard without using any? Okay. In TypeScript. Instance of. Maybe like this. Nope. Ah. Oh. Like that. There we go. Or even easier, like this. That's it. So this thing, I'd say it's either all going to work or none of it's going to work. So there's either some fundamental misconception I have about how this implementation of the control flow maps to this, in which case none of it will work, or I nailed it. This is the possible configuration. And then these things get concrete validated configurations. Or the thing will bail at an early stage. Classes, everything. Okay, let's write some tests. The only thing is that it's going to try to call core. I think core just does a console.log. I don't know. Let's find out. So import. Oh, there's no exported function in here. Not testable. Well, that's testable. If I try to import this, it will automatically run. Here's the actual run loop here. This is a thing of beauty. Let's create a new one here called parameters, right? And we'll move all the parameter sanitization stuff into here. So you got setup environment, should move to there. This is a pure function that can be moved into there. And it should actually be renamed to parse variables, I think. Parse variables. Okay, it's a pure function. No, it is not. So we should pass in vars, which is of type string. Make it a pure function. Okay, that's better. Thing just gets them from the environment. So in here, setup end, get parameters, get arguments, get arguments. So this whole thing here can be moved. Oh, actually, yeah, you can just go here, extract to move to a new file. Ta-da! Okay. Move it there. Delete that. And did it import it? Yep, it did. It's good. Just needs to point to parameters. Flatten that. I wonder if that could move into the get environment. Parse variables. Okay, we'll do the same thing to that. Move to a new file. Move it into there. Oh, if I save this, was it going to save it? Okay, and then we need to get the core from here. Put that into get environment. Save that. Import that from this directory. Okay, that looks good. And here, what's this complaining about? Nothing. Oh, so parse variables doesn't even get called from in here. Okay, good. Doesn't need to be in here then. Okay, I got a different method of checking for required credential configuration. So rename this to missing credential. This is actually missing Command to Cloud credentials. That's a horrible name. No, leave it like that. This we need to rename. Save this. So this is not just get environment, this is get configuration from environment. I think that I'm importing it from there, yeah, so I think I should actually move this. If I move this into here, like that, save that. Is JSON doc used anywhere? What if I do take it out of here, put it into here? I know that I did require it somewhere else. Import variables from main. Maybe I move parse variables into get environment then. Okay, so it only gets called from there, so delete this. Okay, so get environment. I need to import that now. Now let's see if it still compiles. What's it complaining about here? No, it's got a problem in here. Flattening, flattening, flattening. I'm going to flatten this now. The way I'm going to do that export const config equals, and I'll go here, grab this entire thing, and here, paste that there, and just change this to config. Right. It's going to cause these to have a problem. Everything that starts with pipe will now be config. Ta-da! Good. Now, next is these operations. So they go into operations. Start workers is broken. Let's have a look. Save that. And I have to import it from get environment. Okay. Not ideal, but not too bad. Operations. So in operations, I'll create a new file called index.ts. And then I can do export from. think there are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, so that, 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 that. It makes it a little more tricky to add stuff into this because, you know, now I've got to create it and then I've got to also export it from here, but it will flatten my imports in the main file. So I go back to main. I can now do this. And I can actually, I think I can do this. Like this. And I go down here. Everything that starts with this thing here now becomes like that. There we go. This feature here of this like subdirectory imports is deprecated, I think. I was reading somewhere it said don't use this in the future, and it's disabled in some linting configurations, but apparently not in this one. It said it still runs, or compiles at least. Got to write some tests. What doesn't it like about that? Oh yeah, okay. Wow. Okay. Oh yeah, it's the import that it didn't like. That's right. So we're going to test something. We're going to test validating a configuration, right? Well, fail on missing required parameters. So I want to import one of the validators. Should probably go in the operations folder. What's a good one? This one. Decode. Okay, no IntelliSense in here. Publish message. Let's have a look what it requires. So if I give it a message name, hello, time to live. I don't know whether that's milliseconds or seconds. Okay, so variables, it needs to be an object. But let's pass it a string. This is actually incorrect parameters, right? Now, what is that thing? It's an either. Either errors or... So I think we can do either dot reproduce, sequence, throw error, throw error. No, I'm not going to guess that. Let me have a look at this FP thing. Either map. Okay. Oh well, let's do this. Fold it into this. Or pipe it in there. And that should be dot fold. Port. No, it is comma. Oh, okay. My goodness. And it's got to get T in here as well. Don't need that. And then we should say expect type of res to be string. And for good measure, we'll just console log it out, eh? Okay, so if I now npm run my tests, functional programming, good, I'm having fun. Move the file that this test relies on. Try that. One error found. Oh, yeah, okay, good. Yeah, one error found in this. Let's have a look at what the error looks like. So instead, I'll return JSON stringify errors. Let's run it again. Boom. Wow, okay. That sucks. This is no good. Okay. Okay. What does this return? So instance of t.errors. No, it's not liking it. Doesn't exist at runtime. This will pass the test on write. Oh, they've got to be the same. Hum. Can I use any? Or unknown? Unknown. And then just tell it that this one is also unknown. You don't know what this is. Unknown is the new any. It's going to log out this object. Okay. Okay, this is not going to be a useful error message for people. Eek. Now that guy was logging out an error message in his one. Otto. Where'd he get that throw reporter from? There we go. This thing actually prints it out, but oh. Got to extract a useful okay, will it work with any? Yep, it works good. Now it's going to log it out. How do I get useful errors out of it? Error reporters, here we go. Reporter, report. Oh, here we go. So, put that in the on left. Okay. So I would put that in here. Oh. Let's put it in the left path then. The left-hand path. Nope. Nope. And a report on errors. No, it cannot. Buried inside here, so you can't get to it. Tips and tricks. Okay. Surely someone has asked about this in the past. Issues. Error. '94 closed will be closed because people would have asked it early on. Optional JSON parsing payloads. Yeah. Let's go right back to the beginning. Print error. Error has its own. Okay, so you can do your own error reporter. Okay, here we go. Get paths. Proxy function. Getting pretty hardcore. Okay, so in that case, someone at the door. Got that? So now we've got a JSON stringify config so they can see it. But here we got to figure out how to get this the errors out of it. How do we get the errors out? get the T errors, right? Let's have a look at it. Array of validation error. Wonder how that gets put in there. Context entry. Can you get that, Prahlad? How come the door's locked? Okay, anyway, I'm going to stop for now. I'll fix this later. Figure out how to report on the errors meaningfully for users.